acoustic violin, traditional acoustic instrument, or should you get an electric violin? If you're a violin beginner and this is something that you're interested in, just keep on watching. I myself a violin beginner. I started playing the violin a little over a year ago, and I'm completely self-taught, so take this video with a grain of salt. And I'm first going to give you the short answer because I don't like to beat around the bush too much. In my opinion, you should get both. You should get an acoustic violin and an electric violin. And there are two things to consider. When you're choosing a violin and whether you're deciding whether you should start with one or the other. And the first thing, of course, is sound production. What kind of repertoire do you want to play? Are you going to play mostly classical music, classical pieces? Or are you looking more to maybe create your own music and incorporate your violin playing into maybe music composition? This is more the kind of stuff that I want to do. And the second point, which is very important, of course, is volume, because when you're practicing an acoustic instrument, acoustic violin can be exceptionally loud. If you're playing at home, especially when you're a beginner, and we all tend to suck when we're beginners. So, you don't want to expose too much your, spouse, your kids, or your parents, whatever, with noises which resemble the sound of a baby seal being killed, or nails on the chalkboard. I know from my experience it can sound pretty horrible. And even when you're able to play, more or less the instrument, we all know that you have to repeat certain passages sometimes over and over and over and over, maybe hundreds of times. And this can be very, very annoying for other people. For this reason, an acoustic violin, like this one, is not a very good choice to be played without a mute at home, because it can be disturbingly loud, this instrument. This is an acoustic violin. However, it has a built-in piezo pickup, I think, under the bridge. It has a volume and tone control, but it is completely passive. It's completely whole, so it's more or less, very, very close to traditional acoustic violin, or in this case, it's an acoustic electric violin. This instrument is about 90 dB, 90 decibels when played without a mute. And this can be very, very loud if you're playing at home. But the benefit of playing an acoustic violin is that, when you hit the right note, for example, when you hit this G on the E string in the first position, and you hit it just right, the whole instrument starts to resonate. It's like a video game where you hit the top, the bullseye. You manage to get the top points, and the whole game like applauds you somehow. I don't know how to explain. It's like there is an explosion of fireworks, and it's very, very intuitive. Like the whole instrument kind of shows you that your intonation is right, which if you're a beginner can be very frustrating, because I personally am struggling with the intonation, and I know it's something that even professional musicians have to work on every day. So for expression, for intonation, for developing all sorts of finding all sorts of nuances when you're playing the violin, an acoustic instrument, I think, is indispensable. So if there is only one instrument that you can afford, really, I'll probably start with an acoustic violin. That's why I got this. This was actually my first ever violin that I got, like I said, a bit over a year ago in April 2022. And yeah, it's not an expensive instrument. It's a Thomann violin. I have a video on it on my channel. So it's, I think I paid something like 150 euro for it, which, I mean, for an acoustic electric violin, it's really a bargain. And it's a great instrument. I don't regret buying it at all. Now with the mute, if you use a mute like this one, for example, by Artino, this is a heavy mute, and you put it on the bridge. It's made out of metal, but it's rubberized so that it doesn't damage the finish or the bridge of your instrument, and it's just fit over the bridge like that, right? And it can dampen the sound significantly. There are going to be sound examples at the end of this video, where you can see the violin, acoustic violin playing with a mute, without mute, so you can compare the volume. And then there are going to be clips with an electric violin as well, so you can make up your own mind. With the mute, you can definitely play the violin, the acoustic violin, much more comfortably in your living room without disturbing, other people. But still, in my experience, an electric violin is quieter. A completely electric violin is going to be quieter, even than an acoustic violin with a very, very hard, very, very powerful mute. So that's just one important thing to consider, I think, as well. This is the electric violin. This is the second violin that I ever got. This one is Geva, I think Novita it's called, 3.0 is the version of the instrument. And it has a built-in preamp, it has active electronics, so there is a battery inside, it has volume and tone controls. There is a headphone out as well, so you can plug your headphones directly into this instrument, and it can be very, very cool, because it's very quiet, and you can play this instrument in the middle of the night. Electric violin is never gonna sound like an acoustic violin. So for, like I say, for developing your ear, your musical, developing your musicality, I should say, an acoustic violin is, in my opinion, indispensable. And I know for a fact that most violin teachers, most music teachers advise their students to get an acoustic instrument. Now, if you play in a band, if you record music, and the sound of an traditional acoustic violin doesn't matter that much to you, completely electric violin like this one can be very, very useful. And just one last, with an acoustic violin with a mute, the sound is not very inspiring. So if you want to get an acoustic violin and use the mute, the violin becomes harder to play. So this is one thing to bear in mind. Even harder to play than just, not that the violin is a particularly easy instrument, as we all know, but it gets even harder to play, and the sound that you're going to get out of it is not going to be very inspiring. Maybe during the day you can talk to your neighbors and play the violin for maybe an hour without a mute. Typically, if your neighbors are, good-natured, should I say, it's not going to be too much of a problem. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video was useful to you. Cheers.